Wall from Stitches Quilting, and I am here today to teach you how to layer your quilt top so it is ready to be quilted on your domestic sewing machine. Because the last thing that you want to do is to be able to be worried about your quilt sandwich as you're pushing it through your domestic sewing machine, and being worried that it's going to be crimpled and all wrinkled on the back of your quilt. So I'm going to teach you my no-fail way of how to layer your quilt sandwich. So let's go ahead and get started here. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am out on my covered patio where I love to spend time in the spring and the summer and the fall months sewing and quilting out here. So let me go ahead and get started. Let me know how you put together your quilt sandwich and how you do things your way. But this is my no-fail way where I can then concentrate on just the quilting of the quilt when I'm on my domestic sewing machine, or not be sending it all out to the long armor every single time. So, and be getting a project done a little bit quicker. And we have, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I am going to quilt this quilt, and you're going to love the tips and the tricks there so that you know how to easily get yours done. Okay. So one of my very best secrets is I work on a piece of plywood. Can you see this plywood right here? It is only 1/4 of an inch thick. So pieces of plywood come in 4 by 8 foot sizes. So when I go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever to purchase this piece of plywood, I just have them cut it 4 by 6 feet. And they're always willing to do that for you. I feel like the 4 by 6 foot size is a little bit more manageable for me. I then get all my supplies ready. I get my quilt top ready. I have it pressed. I've trimmed off all of the little yucky threads that I don't want on there. And then I get it to, and I have my backing that's all ready to go. And I get my batting that's ready to go. When I am quilting a quilt on my domestic sewing machine, I usually use a batting that's like a Hobbs 80-20 batting that's a lot thinner. Let me go ahead and show you what that's like. And it's a thinner bat, so I don't have to deal with a lot of loft in my batting and have to wrestle the quilt as I'm putting it through the domestic sewing machine. So let's go ahead and keep going on this. All right, so what I do is I take my piece of plywood, no matter where it is. I usually store it in the garage, maybe under a bed, maybe behind a piece of furniture, but I have this piece of plywood somewhere in my house. This particular piece I've had for probably 15, 18 years. I don't even remember. So I did have my stepdaughters many years ago, when they were probably 7 or 8, they painted this for me because I found that sometimes when I used it, I might have gotten a little splinter if I wasn't extra careful. So I like having my top of my piece of plywood painted because then it doesn't warp with time and things like that. Okay, so we have our quilt top, and then what we're gonna do is, you can see that I've already basted this somewhat. I wanna show you how nice and flat the backing looks. So you can see the backing on here. There's no wrinkles, there's nothing going on. But I'm gonna show you how I attach this to the piece of plywood. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'm gonna fan it out. I'm gonna fan out so that the open side of it is facing you, okay? So what I do is, your piece of plywood is never the perfect size for a complete quilt top, okay? It might be for a baby quilt or something like that, but it's not always going to be the perfect size. So let me go ahead and show you what I did. I have the quilt that is clamped around the piece of plywood. So let me go ahead and show you just a little bit of this. I use office clamps. So you can see I have a little basket of office clamps right here. And I use these office clamps to secure the quilt to the edge of the plywood. So I will just take it like this and bring this over and just clamp it right like that. Now I've got a section right here that is not pinned and it is not basted on there yet. So let's go ahead and bring this around. So I'm going to once again bring my quilt top around, and I'm going to just clamp it onto the sides, the circumference of the piece of plywood. One thing I love about the plywood is I can take this plywood, just put it on, say, a a cardboard table. I could put this and I could work on it, say in one space. Say it's ready to it's time to cook dinner and serve dinner, or you're having guests, and I'm not done pinning or basting. I can go ahead and move this piece of plywood back into the house or wherever I might be and move it so that then I can come back to it and continue to get my quilting done, okay? So I can easily, let me show you, I can easily pick this up and move this into another space that's clean if I can't finish my work at a particular time. That way I'm not in the middle of the kitchen, on the kitchen floor, trying to bend down uncomfortably and be basting this nonstop somewhere on the floor. So let me go ahead and bring this over. You can see that I'm just bringing this down and around. And I do it layer by layer. So you can see right here, we've got this clamped around the quilt. Let's go ahead and pull off this side because I'm going to show you how I do that layer by layer. All right, so let's bring this out. This is my backing fabric. And I've already slightly basted this with my spray basting, but I want to show you how I go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and pull this side back. So you can see on here, I've just lightly basted this. But as I've got this pulled from that side, when I put this on, I put the backing fabric on completely by itself so that everything is perfectly flat. So let's get this nice and flat and even. So we want the backing fabric to be even. And I will move this around as I go ahead and get a nice even backing that has no bubbles, that has nothing to it. So you can see right in here, let's maybe reposition this one over here and make sure I've got a nice even flow to this. So let's go ahead and bring that up here. Now, so often your quilt will not perfectly lay or fit on it. Say we're using a baby size quilt or a crib size quilt or lap. Use painter's tape to then attach your fabric for your quilt onto the piece of plywood. So you can see right here I went ahead and left this a little bit off so you can see how easily I can attach painter's tape to that and have my quilt be steady. Let's go ahead and straighten out this piece a little bit more and put the clamp back. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I just use a little bit of light 505 spray adhesive. And I just use it in a really light way because I do not want to over safety pin my quilt, because if I have too many safety pins, it's going to make it awkward and it's going to be really thick and heavy as I'm pushing it through my domestic sewing machine. So I'm just using a little bit of spray basting to get this down. So let's go ahead and spray baste this just ever so lightly. And I'm coming right along here. Okay, I'm going to bring down my batting and I'm going to bring down my quilt top too. After my batting is down. Okay, so let's go ahead and clamp our batting. So we do one layer at a time. And we want all the layers to be nice and beautiful and flat. All right? And we want to have confidence that our quilt top is going to stay flat and not bump and wiggle as we are rolling it up to get it through that domestic sewing machine. So we want to have a really, really good nice flat layer sandwich, quilt sandwich. Okay, you can see here's my quilt top. This is actually the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. It's a quilt that has 26 sampler quilt blocks about health and wellness for women. And as we make each quilt block, we focus on a different aspect of health and wellness. Just basic things. But that's the quilt that we have. The size of this quilt is about a 60 by 60 inch. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take our quilt top, and once again we're going to spray this down just ever so lightly. I already have this section pinned. I've done that earlier, but I wanted to give you guys a feel for what this looks like. Okay, let's go ahead and lay this down. I'm not using a lot of spray, and I'm not distorting my quilt top as I'm pulling it across. Down here, I don't have this matching up to the side of this plywood, so that is where I would use some of my painter's tape once again. So anytime I need to, the painter's tape is nice and gentle with your fabrics and with all the layers that you're using, and it kind of keeps things real nice and stable. So in places where it can't reach the edge of your plywood, you're going to go ahead and use it like that. Okay, right here, once again, I'm going to just move this across without stretching the fabrics. Move that across without stretching the fabrics. I'm going to re-clamp that down, and once again, this is another layer, so I'm going to see if I can re-clamp that down. If it won't fit, I'm going to put a piece of my painter's tape right there, and then I'm going to put my clamp just kind of over the painter's tape, or just put it where my batting is. Okay, let's bring this down some more. If you have an old quilt that you layered with spray basting, and you didn't get up the courage to maybe quilt it right away, and because you wanted to do a really special technique, go ahead and reactivate your 505 spray with an iron and reheat it, and just really layer it out and just spread it out to just have more confidence that everything is nice and flat. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and move this along and get that nice and flat. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to actually pin with some of my safety pins. And I'm going to go ahead and pin it just like how I've done with the other part of the quilt. Let me go ahead and show you, because our next live video will be on machine quilting your quilt. So let me go ahead and show you how I have machine quilted this. And my favorite no-fail way, this gives you the perfect quilt sandwich, so you have confidence to get it pushed through your machine. But this is my new no-fail way on how to quilt your quilt. So let me go ahead and spread this quilt out. Here we go. So you can see the style of quilting that we're looking at here. And you can see how beautiful this is. We've got a very beautiful quilted quilt. Once again, this is the Live Well, Live Strong quilt using negative space that goes all the way up to king size. So from twin, full, king, or queen, or throw. Okay, so you can see on here all that we've done, which is so easy to do on a domestic sewing machine, is just running straight lines across the quilt, although you can see they're not perfectly straight, and we throw in an occasional waved line, just maybe every 6 inches or so. Can you see that quilting? But you can see how lovely that quilting is as we have washed this quilt, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. So you can see it's just a beautiful, beautiful quilt. So this is a very modern way to quilt your quilts and to get just a really no-fail look and feel to your quilting. So come back. I have another video for you on how to push your layered quilt sandwich through your domestic sewing machine. So you don't have to pay that long armor. You don't have to wait for the long armor. You might have a gift to give right away, but you will have confidence pushing your quilt sandwich through with the domestic sewing machine. So come back, and I will have another video for you on Wednesday. Be sure to like, subscribe, and sign up for those post notifications when I have new videos for you. I'm Deanna from Stitches Quilting. Good to see you guys. Bye-bye.